Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Tuesday, August 9th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, FBI agents raided former President Donald Trump's home in Mar-A Largo estate. What were the agents looking for? We will begin our show with that story and all of its intricate details. Meanwhile, Stacey Abrams has an issue with hip-hop lyrics being used as evidence for criminal trials, pointing to the First Amendment, using examples of rappers Young Thug and Gunna, whose lyrics have landed them in jail. Then, an entire police force was disbanded after a racist joke was shared between officers in a small town. Who will provide the law enforcement services for the city? We have that and so much more.
Plus, Nicki Minaj is accepting the historic award. Can't wait to tell you which one. And Drake is slamming his dad, and we're going to tell you why. There it is. You kind of got a hint, right? We have all that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We start today with news on former President Donald Trump. FBI sources are confirming they executed a search warrant at former President's Mar-A Largo home yesterday. Trump declined to say why the agents raided his home, but FBI sources say the search is related to missing White House documents that were taken by Trump's staff from the White House. The Library of Congress says some of those documents were classified. Now, so far, the Justice Department has not commented on the raid. Trump has called the search inappropriate and says it's an attempt to stop him from running for president in 2024. So we know that they did search his Mar-a-Lago estate yesterday. What exactly they were looking for, we don't know. But according to FBI sources, as I just said, they were looking for classified documents. If you remember back in January, they took about 4 or 5 boxes from his home at that time. And according to legal scholars, a move like this is unprecedented. So they must feel that there's something there that they missed. There's more information. And I did sort of like a deep dive because in order to obtain a search warrant, that means that a judge had to feel that there was probable cause that there was a crime committed or there was evidence of a crime at his Mar-a-Lago estate. And so that is actually a really big deal to take this extraordinary step to execute a search warrant on a former president. We haven't seen that before. And so we'll see what comes of this. Trump, of course, is calling it, the usual, the witch hunt, being the victim. But I don't think that the DOJ or the FBI would execute something like this had there not been something there that they felt that they needed to go in and get.
I definitely believe that we believe also that there was something at his Mar-a-Lago estate and at his home inside of his safe as well. My fear is that, is it too late? Because we're months, almost a year now into when this should have happened. This seems like this should have been something that happened right after the election results were attempted to be overturned. Now, years later, we've heard him flushing documents down the toilet. At this point, I'm wondering, what can you even find? And so there's a story on MSNBC. It said that after they raided his Mar-a-Lago estate, Republicans aren't arguing that Trump is innocent. They're arguing that it doesn't matter if he's guilty. And so I thought that was pretty interesting because the Republicans, they're also just like, hey, you know what? If you find something, you find something. If you don't find something, it doesn't really matter. And that's how I feel as well. Like, if you find something, it's probably going to be something either he created to be there, planted to be there. I think he's ahead of the game. He's ahead of everybody with this. And so if he has something, it's probably the wrong information. I just think that he is just always thinking about how to fool us, or I just don't think that they're going to actually find something that they can use this late in the game.
I feel like all things in this time, I feel like they have to take these precautions because if you're going to try and charge him, you have to make sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. You have to. Now, I like the fact that he tried to compare this to Westgate. To Watergate. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. That was illegal. This is not. The steps they take to make this happen, it was all done correctly. And, I think about some of the Trump supporters out there now putting things on social media, talking about defund the FBI, joking like that. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And then when you see photos of something actually in the toilet about to be flushed, who took those pictures? Are they really the pictures that he took? And if so, is he playing games with the United States of America? That's the question.
Yeah, I think to your point too, Demi, and actually both of you, does it really matter? Because we've seen him get out of stuff like this, right? We've seen things, there's a smoking gun, okay, they're going to charge him with this is going to happen this time, and nothing happens. And so maybe the Republicans are saying, okay, so maybe he has something. Is this really going to change people's mind? Because there's a poll coming out that's highlighting the January 6th attack and saying that most people kind of are still the same. And so look at all that evidence that came out during that.
And also, too, this is a moment that Trump is using to rally up his troops again. There have been lots of stories of his supporters now threatening Republicans, making threats now as a result of this. So again, Trump's calculation here, he's like, okay, come on in. And now I'm going to say, well, you guys, this is whatever word
Witch
he used.
hunt
This is,
or,
all those little terms that he's using, like,
yeah.
oh my God, I'm the victim here. So now I need to protect myself and get all of my supporters all rallied up. So it's all a mind game. He is far more smarter than we think he is.
And
I will say that.
I'm going to say this in closing. If they find nothing and can't bring any charges, we already know it's probably a wrap for 2024. I hate to say that, but can you imagine the momentum he's going to have going into 2024 if they find absolutely nothing? He's going to ride that all the way through.
That's a great point. He is absolutely going to use that against the DOJ, the FBI, Republicans,
Everybody.
Democrats, everybody.
It will become the talking point. There'll be shirts made, hats made, all kinds of things.
His Trump Social is already has tons of reports about this all day. So we will absolutely keep you posted on that story, Soulmates. Now, former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is criticizing Vice President Kamala Harris's history regarding marijuana prosecution. Now, this after Harris denounced Russia's sentencing of WNBA star Brittany Griner on a cannabis infraction. Gabbard told Fox News yesterday, that Harris's record as Attorney General of California shows that she kept prisoners quite locked up much longer than their sentences to use them as free slave labor. The vice president's history as a prosecutor became an issue during her short run for president in 2020. As DA, Harris made more than 1,900 marijuana convictions as San Francisco District Attorney, as the San Francisco District Attorney. But the Bay Area News says that most of those low-level defendants were never locked up. Only a few dozen people were sent to state prison for marijuana convictions during her time as the DA.
Georgia Governor hopeful Stacey Abrams says she is concerned about hip-hop lyrics being used as evidence in criminal trials. Abrams was talking specifically about the Young Thug and Gunna criminal racketeering case brought by Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis. Now, Abrams says she believes in the First Amendment but can't speak to the specifics of the case. Prosecutors say Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, formed a street gang and promoted its lifestyle through his music and social media posts. The indictment includes lyrics from songs produced by Williams and Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens.
And Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron says he's proud of the work his office did in presenting a case to the grand jury in connection to the death of Breonna Taylor. Cameron's comments come a day after the Department of Justice filed civil rights charges against the officers that took part in the botched no-knock warrant that led to Taylor's death in 2020. Only one cop was charged in the case by the grand jury, Brett Hankerson, and he was charged with wanton endangerment. Now, Cameron, who is a Republican, he's running for Kentucky governor. He's also come under criticism by black people in the state. They say he failed to present information to the grand jury that could have charged the officers in the case with the actual shooting of Breonna Taylor.
And New York City Mayor Eric Adams is angry with Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who is sending migrants arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border to cities like New York and Washington, D.C. Thousands of people have been put on buses from Texas to the Northeast as part of Abbott's plan to rid his state of people who crossed the border illegally. Abbott says that he's sending them to New York and Washington because they are sanctuary cities for illegal immigration.
It's unimaginable that what the governor of Texas has done. When you think about this country, a country that has always been open to those who were fleeing persecution and other intolerable conditions, we've always welcomed that. And this governor is not doing that in Texas, but we are going to set the right message, the right tone of being here for these families.
Adams says that 4,000 migrants have been sent to his city in recent months. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is also dealing with the flood of migrants sent by Abbott. She's asked the National Guard for assistance. Bowser says that her city is struggling to handle the people coming to the nation's capital.
Schools around the country are getting ready to reopen for the school year, and one North Carolina school district will supply school staff with more than textbooks and erasers. Some of them are getting AR-15 rifles. The Madison County Sheriff's Department has placed one AR-15 assault rifle in each of the county's 6 schools. School officials say the weapons will be used by school resource officers in the event of an active shooter event. The action was spurred by the Uvalde Elementary School massacre that took lives of 19 students and 2 teachers. The sheriff's spokesman says the weapons will be locked inside a safe when they are not being used. This is where we come to in our country. It's kind of embarrassing to even have this conversation, but with the school shootings that we've encountered so far this year, our mass shootings compared to just the rest of the world, period, we wonder what we have to do. We don't want teachers on the weekend having to go to a shooting range instead of maybe going and being creative for their class, for their students in class, but this is what we've come to. But I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. I mean, you're talking about one AR-15, you're talking about having it locked up. If something happens, someone has to go get it out of the I mean, there's a lot to this than just simply having that on hand if needed. So I don't necessarily agree with this.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. It just, when you send your, and I understand it's the times that we live in, but when you send your kids to school, you want your kids to learn and get an education. You're not sending them there to be around guns, but you do want them to be safe should something happen. But studies have shown that when you have guns in school, when teachers are armed, when administrators in the school are armed, it negatively affects black and brown kids more than it would in a white school district or a white county. And so this is a little concerning for me. I definitely would wonder, are there other alternatives than stocking the school with AR-15s? And AR-15s, yeah. I mean, why AR-15?
I am honestly, I don't have children, so I'm not nearly as triggered as either of you have to be hearing the story as parents. But that was my absolute first question, was what do the parents feel about this, sending your child to school with an AR-15 in the classroom? Romeo, second question was, who's going to go get the gun? Who's going to be responsible? We saw here in Uvalde, Texas, hundreds of police officers couldn't even find a way to get down the classroom to get one class of students out that we're going to trust that that we don't even know mentally if these teachers are set up to have to handle. I know if I was a teacher and you told me I had to have an AR-15, right. I'm terrified of that.
Well, they're saying it's going to be an officer that's on the premises, but like he can be in 3 different places at one time.
That's
right?
my point.
Yeah.
In Uvalde, we had hundreds of police officers that were there that couldn't stop one person. So how are we going to expect for one teacher or 2 teachers, one officer to go and get this gun when there's an armed person inside the school? It just doesn't, Mimi, to your point, seem like the most sound decision, but it also seems like something the NRA would like. You know, like we want to get more guns out. The answer to fight guns is to get more guns out into the places that we see gun action versus finding ways to strategically stop these people from getting guns to enter the school. It's like we're just going to fight fire with fire, and it just seems like an unthought out process and answer to a problem for me.
I mean, because in my mind, I'm seeing a gunfight out in a classroom. That's not what you want.
No,
you
it's
know,
not what you want.
I mean, you just, and then not to think too, you might have a person mentally not there, right? Mentally not there that goes to get this gun and say, I'm going to be the one to do this. And like you say, I just see a full out mob movie play out at the dispense, exactly, of the children.
You know, and I got a friend back home, I won't even mention his name, but you know, it's kind of sad when his child comes home and say, well, we talked about if someone invades our school with a gun and how they're told to ball up in a circle and play dead. Imagine that. That's the conversation that your kids are having to have at a school just in case something like this happens. No one wants to talk like that, but it's unfortunate.
All right. A former Minnesota police chief is suing after being forced to quit for refusing to fire Kim Porter, the cop who killed Dante Wright. Tim Gannon has filed a lawsuit against the Brooklyn Sitter, the city council, and its city manager. Gannon says he was also discriminated against because he is white. He says city officials were angry he protected Potter's procedural rights under the police contract. Now, Potter was convicted of Wright's death in 2021 after killing him at a traffic stop.
One of the 6 Baltimore cops who faced charges in the death of Freddie Gray is being promoted to captain. Alicia White will serve as captain of the department's performance standards section. The section conducts audits and inspections to make sure the agency is following its policies. Gray died after suffering a severe spinal cord injury inside a police van in 2015. His death sparked days of unrest in Baltimore. 3 of the cops involved were acquitted. Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby dropped those charges against the other 3 cops, including White.
Police in Raleigh, North Carolina are looking for the person who wrote a racial slur on the driveway of a white man who had a Black Lives Matter sign in his yard. Matt Moore says he woke up recently to see the slur spray painted on his driveway. The writing said the N-word, lives don't matter. Moore says he thinks he was targeted for the lawn sign that says Black Lives Matter and science is real. Moore's neighbors are calling for police to hold the vandals accountable. The Raleigh NAACP, it encourages people to report instances of racial attacks and slurs to police and their local chapter.
A small town in Alabama is disbanding its police department after the discovery of a racist joke that was shared by text among officers in the town of only 2,000 people. This is the text that was shared. The message reads, "What do you call a pregnant slave?" The answer, BOGO, or buy one, get one free. Vincent City Council approved a resolution last week that agreed to fire the city's police chief and his assistant chief. The resolution also disbanded the police force, which only had 3 employees. The neighboring county's sheriff office says it will now provide law enforcement services for the city.
And a story we've been keeping you updated on, Soulmates. A traveling nurse is now facing 6 counts of murder for a fiery crash that took place in Los Angeles. Nicole Linton was in court Monday and is being held on $9 million bond. Police say she blew through a red light at 90 miles per hour, smashing into multiple other cars, causing them to burst into flames, killing a half a dozen people. The family of one of the victims says he was on his way to a doctor checkup with his pregnant girlfriend when they were killed in the crash. She faces 90 years in prison. Meanwhile, family members of 4 of the victims killed in the crash have created a GoFundMe page, and they're asking for help for funeral expenses. And this is a continuing story. Everyone on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram is talking about this story. And so one thing that everybody is wondering is she was crying in court. You know, everyone keeps bringing up the video of her in court crying. And so everyone is wondering, is she crying because she could be spending the rest of her life in prison, or is she crying because that she killed 6 people? There are also reports that she had 13 prior car crashes before this. There are also reports. So remember when there was the video of the young lady that said she was driving before, she was drinking and she was driving. They're trying to find that person because there's no evidence. The toxicology report came out today, and there's no evidence that she was, in fact, under the influence of alcohol. So now they're trying to find that woman who made that report. So it's getting really sticky here right now. But I also want to know more about the other people's lives. I feel like we're only talking about one family. Lots of families were lost in this, and so I feel like we should also be giving them our same love and care and condolences as well, because of a lot of families will be changed forever as a result of this.
Absolutely. We have the GoFundMe link on the page, on the screen, if we could put that back up, because I just, this family of 4, they lost their entire family in one shot, and so it's just very, very tragic. And yes, a lot of people are speaking about her crying in court yesterday. It's hard to know why she's crying. Overall, the entire situation is a tragedy. She was involved in 13 of accidents. 2 of those, they said that she was rear-ended, but prosecutors also said that she had a history of mental issues, and so a lot of that is coming to light. And so if she wasn't intoxicated, what was going on, I'm sure as time goes on and she's back and forth to court, we will find out more details of exactly what she was thinking, the motive behind this, and
I think so too.
Be able to because we can't bring them back, but you want to know what happened.
You do. That's the big question that needs to be answered.
And I think that there's another theory that people online do believe that there's no way she was going down that hill, down La Brea, at between 90 and 100 miles an hour with intentions to stop. There was no stop in sight. So a lot of people feel as though she was trying to unalive herself. And a lot of people feel like that was her goal, that her goal was not to live through this crash.
Well, like Mimi said, I think once we go more deeper into court, we'll find out truth to definitely come out.